Hi, I'm Brandon Garrel, sitting down with Paul Richards, and we're going to talk about Paul's experience as a leader, his background as a business owner, his experience in sales. We're going to talk about effective leadership styles that Paul brings to the table, how to recognize the talent on your team, cultivate that talent on your team, accountability measures. What are some effective ways to determine whether coaching is necessary versus discipline? And Paul will also discuss his small businesses that he started in the past. Very excited to learn more about that. And also, Paul has decided to continue his education. So I'm very intrigued as to what made him decide to take that step and return to school to continue his education. So, Paul, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay, thank you, Brandon. So again, my name's Paul Richards. I'm a couple decades of experience in business. I've started 4 of my own small businesses. I've worked for some large academic institutions. I've worked for other organizations in between. I've learned to be a leader and lead people really, by the seat of my pants in some respects. But, I've lived all over the country. That's one thing that a lot of people don't know about me. I was, born in the Midwest. I've lived in Montana, California, Illinois. I was in Saudi Arabia. I was in Massachusetts, Florida, North Carolina, and Texas briefly, and Maine for that matter, and Washington State. I can't even remember anymore. As a result of all that moving around, I kind of had to learn to get along with people. And that translated later in life into a pretty successful sales career, and then the ability to kind of manage people and to learn how to manage people and to understand people and their motivations. I'm definitely the kind of leader that strives to create trust and to create a safe environment for their folks. And the reason for that is you can't have constructive discord without some kind of trust and safety. And by discord, I mean, you want your people to disagree, be it a job function issue, be it change management, you name it, where the stressors come from in work. I've learned over the last 6 to 20 years to really find ways to kind of work through that, to create buy-in, to create engagement. The biggest compliment that I've ever gotten is when somebody that worked for me grows up and grows out and goes on to bigger and better things. To me, that's the sign of a successful leader. I've been able to do that quite a bit in my career. It's something that I'm very proud of.
That's awesome, Paul. So question for you, how do you actually get that buy-in from someone that reports to you? How do you put them in the best position to, as you put it, grow up and grow out?
Great question. The way you get buy-in from anybody, first of all, you have to establish a relationship. And to establish that relationship, I mean, I've worked for people that their mode is really to put their thumb on you. You'll do what I say. I'm the one that's always right. I push the agenda. Feel free to give me an idea or two, but realize that even if you do, I'm going to take ownership of that. So one of the things that I've always tried to do is always give credit to the people that come up with the idea. And even if it's not always 100% on them, it still benefits you always to let the staff feel like you've given them that recognition. That's how you start to build those relationships. The other thing, I subscribe to a servant leader philosophy. So when the typical corporate structure is the tree hanging down, right? Top to bottom.
Interesting.
I feel the opposite. I feel like it's like this. I'm holding you up. The whole idea is, and you create an environment of trust by doing what you say you're going to do, holding people accountable fairly for the things that you are expected of them. Somebody said to me a long time ago that when you point a finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
It is. It's something I think that when you treat people with respect, when you listen, when you give people credit for their ideas, and you don't just ram change down somebody's throat. You
Right.
know, you engage with them, you explain why something is necessary. Now, obviously there's different flavors of this, and, you know, depending on the situation, what you're trying to do, you can't always get that level of buy-in, but
Right.
you always have to strive for that. You always have to take that time and work with your people and have them feel like, you know, you got their back, that you're supporting them, that you're there to make sure that they can do their job the best as possible. And you want to understand where they want to go.
This is one question I've asked a lot of leaders. How do you know when it's appropriate to discipline versus coach?
Yeah, great question. And that's always a challenge. So there's a couple of things. What I'll always say to people, one of my kind of go-to things is, you know, we all make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, every day. I probably misspoke a couple of times just in this brief interview that we've had.
Same with me and my technology.
Yeah. You know, it happens. But what I always say to people is you're entitled to make mistakes. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. What you can't do is continue to make the same mistakes over and over. So I'm pretty good at documenting and keeping track of these kinds of things, again, in as transparent a way as you can, with respectable transparency, appropriate transparency.
Right.
But what I'll do is, you know, we all understand how much it costs to bring in an employee and to train an employee. It's astronomical. It's just this huge component of cost, and the loss is giant. So if we make the investment and have someone on our team, you can bet I'm going to do everything that I can do to make sure that person is successful. It doesn't always work. And so I think those situations where, you know, you've addressed an issue and it continues to come back up, then you have to take some of the more formal steps. And you always try to be supportive in those environments, but there definitely, you know, there are some people just aren't right for the organization. You know, you can try to put them into a different part and see if they fit. Right. Like you illustrated earlier, looking at people's strengths and seeing what works. Maybe there's a better spot. Sometimes there isn't. I've had to let people go. It's never fun. But you know, for the health of the organization and the health of the team, sometimes it's necessary.
It's kind of that when I started working in the staffing industry, one of the terms that I'm certain you've heard of that always sticks with me: square peg, round hole. There's just no way to make it fit sometimes, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And you can't be a standard. You can't knock the corners off. Doesn't work.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, you mentioned starting, businesses. I am genuinely very curious, one, to understand the businesses and how you arrived at these were the businesses I was going to start, and what resources you had. Were you very much like the guy who founded Subway? You just started a sandwich chain and you borrowed $1,000 from Peter Buck, a doctor, and here we are years later, it's $1 billion organization. Yeah. I'm very curious about your businesses and just kind of walk me through that.
Sure. So my first business that we started was actually my wife works in the public sector, and she had something to do with funding for housing for folks that can't afford it.
Wow.
And there seemed to be a very strong need for this. This was back 1990 and, 2000, 1999, 2000. And so we decided that, maybe it was a good idea to try to buy some properties and to rehab them and rent them. It wasn't some people I knew were doing it. It was something that was being talked about. It's a lot more popular now than it was back then. But we didn't have the skill set. So it came with some friends of ours, a guy who had been a general contractor for 20 some odd years, and we partnered up with them. So, we all threw in some money. We went to the bank. We opened up an LLC. We contracted with the real estate agent, went out, found a lot of properties actually, finally figured out one that we could afford, that we were willing to take on, bought it, rehabbed it, and rented it. And that has been going on since 1991.
Wow.
It's 1990, right? I'm sorry, I keep saying that. 2000.
It's okay. I do the same thing.
Decades, they slipped from my mind. But yeah, so that was the first company. We still have that business.
Okay.
as a result of that, I had a pretty successful sales career, and I got just kind of burnt. I had made quite a bit of money, so I decided to take some time off. And I worked on my own personal residence and actually rehabbed I built out my entire basement. And I thought, oh, I could do this for a living. So I opened up my own home improvement business. So I started doing tile. I specialize in ceramic tile. So
okay, I see some nice flooring in the background.
Thank you. Yes, so I put that in. I've done all the flooring in my house. I've done did a couple of probably 5, 6 kitchens. I've done maybe a dozen bathrooms, foyers, that kind of stuff. I did this for about 2 years, and honestly, I'm just, as much as I would like to think that I am, I'm not built for physical labor. It wasn't in the cards for me. My back was hurting, taking chunks out of my hands, it was ruining my forerunner, just dragging saws and stuff in and out of the thing. Wow. So I looked for a business, a franchise actually, to buy. And I came across this concept of, I started talking to brokers, business brokers. I came across this concept of the Children's Activity Center.
Okay.
So we met with a group, these 2 guys that had a chain. They were rolling out they were just starting to franchise out. And we met with them on a Friday. We showed them our financials. My wife, again, is a LCSWC, licensed clinical social worker. We had the money. I had the time. We heard their pitch, how they do it. I was like, wow, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want to do. I had, at the time, young children. I thought, this is what the country needs. And so that I couldn't sleep that weekend. I called them on Friday. I called the broker, on Friday. So we just finished meeting, let me know to give me a call on Monday. I call him on Monday morning, where do we sign? And he said, well, they're going to take a pass.
Oh,
exactly. And I said, really? Why? And he said, well, they just didn't like you.
Whoa.
Okay.
Like okay. Knife and stomach, heart, back.
Yeah. But, the thing is, it lit a fire under me. I began to think, well, I don't really need you to do this. So I did my reconnaissance and my homework. I went down and found out where they got their equipment, where they got the curriculum. I met with the owner of that company and said, look, I'd like to open up. This is what I want to do. It took a little kind of back and forth, but he agreed to sell me his equipment and his curriculum. I trained with him. I wrote the business plan, went to the bank, got the SBA loan, opened up a location in Eldersburg in 2005. And it was a home run, man. We were killing it. We were doubling our enrollment every 8 weeks. We were cash flow positive after 9 months. I had really studied my competitors, so I knew what I needed to do in terms of differentiation. And more importantly, I wanted to, become a children's activity center, king. So I created this model where you could almost rubber stamp it. Far from the website, from the IT side. So then I sold 40% of the company to an investor. We liquidated most of my retirement, pulled all my cash together, and we opened up a second location in Owings Mills. And we decided to open in January of 2008. So if you remember 2008, you know that it's the worst time in the world to have opened up a business. So we struggled mightily. We closed after 18 months. I watched 5 of my competitors go out, retrenched back to the first location, and alternatively, I had to find other work. So I wound up going back into the real world of work. So that was the third business, or the second business, third business. The last business that we recently started, and this was about 5 years ago, is I have a fairly large piece of property, and we have horses. And my wife is, again, very much interested in, taking care of kids and finding ways to, improve people's lot in life. So we opened up a therapeutic horse riding business. And
that's so different, Paul.
Yeah, so in this case, I'm just the hired muscle. I'm the one that built the fencing. I'm the one that put the barn up. I'm the one that, was in contact with the Maryland Department of the Environment to get everything zoned correctly, handled all the insurance, all that kind of stuff. My wife is really the brains. I'm the one that fixes the fencing. I'm the one that made sure there's water and all the kind of stuff that we need in order to be, a legit type of business. So Well, that's what, and I have other ideas for products and stuff like that,
Right.
but as I'm getting older, I think I'm becoming more risk averse. So, but I'm always interested in business. I'm a student of business. I've spent my life learning. I'll keep learning. That's why I'm back in school. It's just something that I really enjoy.
I'd say, tell me, I was going to say because I wanted to jump into your continuing education. Our wives, I'd say we'd have to agree, are probably the brains of almost everything we do.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Agreed.
Yes.
So, I mean, you have a heck of a portfolio, man. So just kind of bringing all of that back to gaining new skills. So what made you make the jump into continuing your education?
Well, so several things. I will admit honestly that I wish I had started this sooner. I was just so focused on my own career, particularly early on in sales. I didn't see the reason to continue. I was learning on the job. I was heavily involved in IT. When the second company that I worked for, we wound up selling that to Vizio Corporation. And I had come out of a manufacturing to go into IT. So it was a totally different world, and I stayed in that IT world for almost 11 years. And I was just learning all the time. So I didn't see the purpose in getting, an MBA or anything like that. But as I got older and I switched, careers after my whole entrepreneurial run into healthcare, I realized that I needed additional skills. I needed to understand more about how business decisions are made, what some of the logic is behind it. I learned so much about using data to validate decisions, something that I was doing kind of innately, particularly when I launched the children's gyms. But it became this thing where, I felt like I was kind of stagnating. Originally, I had put myself through college. I put myself through Towson. I got my BS in accounting. Truth be told, I was originally a marketing major. And so I was originally a marketing major. And so what happened was my older brother is a double major from Johns Hopkins. He got a degree in computer science and electrical engineering. My mom has her PhD in physical chemistry. She got her master's from Brown and her undergrad from Goucher. My dad was a Naval Academy grad and got his master's from Cornell. So I was the Towson State University grad with the master's or the degree in marketing.
Okay.
I didn't fit. I wanted to be a professional.
Right,
So
right.
I switched up into accounting. I liked accounting, but honestly, if I could do it over again, I probably would have stayed with marketing. I think that's kind of more the person that I am, although I have benefited greatly from my understanding of finances and how to read spreadsheets, how to read cash flow statements, how to put together all the different financial underpinnings that support a business. That has definitely helped me, no question about it. But I came across this program. I don't know if you follow UMBC basketball. My son goes to UMBC.
Okay.
I was actually watching the game where they beat Virginia for the first time ever. A male team had beaten, 16 seed had beaten a 1 seed. I thought, wow, that's just so cool. And I started looking through UMBC's offerings for graduate programs, and they had a program for entrepreneurship, innovation, and leadership. And I thought,
interesting.
That is right up my alley. This is perfect. So that was actually the impetus. I had taken a quick start with at UMUC in a program management and MBA double major. But a whole bunch of stuff changed at work, and I got extremely busy, and I couldn't devote the time to it. So once things kind of settled down, I was able to kind of get back and start. But it's just so important. I read all the time. I love reading stories about business. So I'm actually kind of glad in some respects that my other path got kind of stalled out, because this entrepreneurship, innovation, leadership program is just so tailor-made for me. I have learned so much in the 4 classes that I've taken so far. So it's amazing. I'll admit a bit of regret that I didn't, dig into this sooner in my career. Just, but that's okay. I'm doing it now, and I'm going to keep.
I'd say it really only matters what you're doing now and where you're trying to go. So I guess really one of my additional questions specific to you and your background, what's next?
Yeah, so what's next? So right now I am out of work. I have taken a severance package and I am in the process of trying to find out that next step.
Right.
So I've been, I've kind of taken the blinders off. I've been in the healthcare industry for almost a decade. But now I'm looking at organizations that require and need that kind of people leadership skills that I have really built over the last 20 years. And I think that's really what for me. I'm pretty industry agnostic. I've looked at so many different kinds of businesses. When I was looking for franchises, and I know this was a while ago, but boy, did I see, all kinds of models. I have looked at so many different models. I've been involved in manufacturing and IT and mortgages, finance, children's activities.
Right. You've done a little bit of everything that exists.
I've touched so many different things. So for me, it's more about fit. It's more about finding the right culture. It's more about finding, an organization that believes that, their people are important, that they want to grow and nurture their staff, that they want to be successful, not just financially, but they want to be successful for the sake of the organization and frankly, for the sake of the planet. I'm definitely a big proponent of, doing the right thing, being in the right business. I have solar panels on my house. I know a lot.
Okay.
But I've had these on my house for, I think, almost 7 years now. So we were an early adopter when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. It's important to me. It's important. I have adult children now. I want them, to have a place to be. And so, that is also important.
What would be the best way of individuals getting in contact with you if they wanted to connect and see what fit there might be within their organization?
Oh,
what would be the best way to reach you?
Well, best way to reach me is I'm on LinkedIn. My name's a little funny, so I have the letter J. I'm J. Paul Richards. We're all three brothers. We're all called by our middle name, so you can find me on LinkedIn. Or you can try my email. My email is paul@jpaulrichards.com. Those are probably the two best ways to find me.
And so what I'll do is I'll make sure that I put your LinkedIn, the link to your profile, as well as your email address in the description of the video, so people can more quickly access you. Anything else you want to share, Paul? I'm telling you, man, you've done so much stuff. I'm impressed with your background. I'm very impressed with your approach to leadership and really just fostering a great team environment. I'm very intrigued by that. What else might you want to share before we wrap up?
Well, so I just want to thank you, first of all, Brandon, for setting this up. And it's very kind of you to take your time out and your personal time to help folks like me spread the word about our skills and talents. I just want to say that if you're an employer that's looking for somebody that has the people management skills, that can run projects, that has a very broad understanding of business across a lot of industries, and you have the right kind of culture. You're looking for someone that it embraces transparency and honesty and looks to have that kind of develop these teams that are successful and get stuff done. I would love to talk to you. So that's what I want to say.
And the flip side is, if they need home improvement,
if you have some questions about home improvement,
or need to do a little horse riding for therapeutic reasons.
Sure, exactly. Or if you want to start a chain of children's gyms.
Exactly. See, you bring so much to the table, so many fringe benefits.
Thank you.
Well, Paul, it's been excellent talking to you, man. And as I said, I really your skills are just awesome, man.
That's really kind of you. Thank you so much.
I'm very hopeful, that someone sees this and they're like, man, I got to connect with that guy.
That'd be terrific. I couldn't ask for more. Thank you so much.